All right. Welcome, Molly and Jake, to week or session number 7, Elemental 7, Negotiate the Deal. Like I said, earlier in the week, we did make and receiving offers, and now we're going to get into what it's like to actually have that deal go from it just exchanging hands to it getting signed, under agreement, all negotiated, and to close. So that's our focus for today and all the techniques that we can use to do so. So I will share my screen. Okay. And so now that we've done that, we've kind of took that little funnel that we had, right? We had our leads, we were communicating with them, we were taking them out on showings, we were signing those contracts. And now we're to the point where now we're like, all right, my buyer, I'm giving their signed contract over. And now on the sales side, as a seller's agent, now how do I take that offer and get it to close? So we're gonna go back and forth a little bit on playing on the buyer's agent side and the seller's agent side. And this is good even if you're gonna be just a buyer's agent or just a listing agent. Sometimes teams run that way where you're either one or the other. So it's just always good to know it from both sides too, even if all you have are buyers right now, because what you use on the seller side to negotiate also help on the buyer side and vice versa, because the same goal is applied. Both sides want to get to the end result, which is buying or selling the house, right?
Right.
And we want to make this a win-win. So it's not healthy if it's just a one-sided deal. So that's another thing that we're going to focus on is that. All right. And of course, growing your business, which was like we talked about, where it starts with that funnel. We have our leads, we get them in there, talking to them, communicating with them, showing them. And now on the run the business side this is what we're going to talk about. Oops. All right, this is going to be the outline for the class. So we're going to break down the common points of negotiation, examine the 3 P's in approaching negotiation, analyze a counter tactics, do some real play, and then we'll recap. So role play is really, really important in this, because the more comfortable you are with all of these little talking points, the better off you're going to be when it comes time to really negotiate that contract. And knowing your contracts, knowing what they say, where to write things, and what it all means when you're breaking them down is also going to give you a lead up on being able to negotiate, because then you know what you're talking about. So the whole goal, right, like I just said, is to keep the contract together and to get both clients, whether you're on the buy or list side, all the way to closing. Working on scripts, I can't tell you how important that is. And role playing, whether it's, you're setting a couple days a week for 30 minutes, practicing them, having a script partner. This is where it's really going to come into practice for everybody. I know that we've tried to do it a couple times, so hopefully we can get more of that on our training schedule too, so it could be a lot more often. So 2 main components of an offer is you have your offer phase, and then we have the option period. So the option period kind of covers like the inspections and things of that nature, things that we can actually negotiate through. So do you guys also see like all 3 of us on the side too?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna fix this. I should have picked a better screen. Okay, is that better?
It looks the same to me, but I can move it on my computer on my side.
Oh,
So, yeah.
okay. Okay. So we have interaction, right? So if let's say we're on the buyer's agent, so I have my buyer, buyer's agent, seller, and seller's agent and seller. So who do you think does the most communicating? The agent to agent or agent to client? What do you think has the most communication?
Agent to agent.
Okay. What do you think, Molly?
I think agent to client, because at the end of the day, it's the client who will have a final say whether they want to buy the house or not.
Okay. So the answer is agent to client, because the two agents, we know what our common goal is, but there's a lot that we have to get to know about our client when it comes time to negotiating a deal, right? We need to know their big whys. We need to know what their drive is, their timeline, who's involved. There's a lot more communication going on between me and my client than it is between me and another agent.
Right.
So in the guide, I know it's probably going to be hard because you guys are probably looking at it on the computer, but some things that I want to really point out, I'm using a tablet along with this because I don't have a second screen, so forgive me. We have negotiate the deal. There is all right. So we get into negotiating issues, okay? So what kind of things could come up in negotiating?
Price.
Price?
Maybe, and possible like contingencies.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Maybe repairs, stuff like that.
Repairs. Yeah, repairs is a big one. That's probably like the biggest one. I think we could do like a whole class on just repairs, right? Because that's just so much of what we do is happening. So during this time, we're going to talk about buyer's credits even, right? We're going to do dates. Dates are also a negotiating thing, whether or not the seller needs a quick closing or they need time to find another home. So there are a lot of factors that play into that. And all of these directly influence how we're going to get to closing. Anything. I think the participation guide and the facilitator's guide is a little different. All right. So on page 5 there, it gives us a breakdown on everything that could happen, right? So terms would be based on time, financing, closing costs, closing dates, conveyances. So conveyance would be the appliances, washer, dryer, maybe a little shed that's in the back, maybe, you know, a pool liner because it's already attached. All kinds of silly stuff can convey with the property. Earnest money, and then again, like we said, repairs. When we're looking through all of this, things that we want to consider is, like it says here, how can your ability to negotiate affect the outcome of the deal? What are some ways that you negotiate in your everyday life? Because believe it or not, you may think, oh gosh, Nina, how am I ever going to negotiate a deal? How am I going to help my buyer, or how am I going to help my seller get the best the best deal that I can? Well, we do this every day. We do it where, what are we going to have for dinner? You know, if you have, well, I don't know if Molly, if you have children yet. No, I don't think you do. But you're negotiating like your kids and their chores, and or with your bosses and days off and things like that. So every day we're negotiating. What we have to do is flip that switch and go, I can translate this into being a real estate agent. So we'll look at ways on how that helps. What are the skills that make you good at negotiating, and what do you need to possess to do that? And why is asking questions important when negotiating? So on that last one, why do you think it's important to ask questions?
So you're on the same page.
Yep, that's a good one. You end up getting more information than what might have already been given to you, right? So I'm on the buy side, and let me see, there might be, I know there's a, all right, there's actually a thing coming up. So we'll talk about it. If I submit an offer to you, Jake, and you're the listing agent, and it's 155,000 is what you have it on the market for, and I'm giving you an offer. So I'm going to call you up. Hey, Jake, this is Nina from Keller Williams. I just wanted to let you know that I'll be sending an offer over to you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So my client is going to offer $140,000.
Okay.
Okay. So now, mind you, it's 155. And
Right.
so what do you think you would say? Play it out.
I
Not sure?
I don't know. Do I ask why so low?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's a concern, right?
Yeah.
And so this is where my questioning comes into place. Oh, so you're telling me that's a little little low of an offer. So what's important to your clients? Is it the offer? Is it time frame? Is it, something like that? That's other follow-up questions that you would ask. So if you know that your seller is motivated by money, then that's going to be your main thing. But if during this conversation, I find out that maybe you have 3 other offers, right? And they were all low offers, but time is of essence for your seller. Okay. So you tell me that, I have 3 offers on the table. They're all below asking price. And so is mine. And your job is to drive up the price. But I'm also going to ask, oh, okay, so what else is important to your seller? And then you can come back and say, well, they really need a 30-day closing because they already have a house in Florida that they have already bought, and they're anxious to move. So I hear, as the buyer's agent, I need to offer a little bit more. Hopefully I can work on that with my buyers. But I also hear that a quick closing is important. So I'm going to thank you for the conversation. And I'm going to say, you know what? Let me talk to my buyers. Let me see what I can do. So I'm going to go back to them, and I'm going to talk to them, say, look, they already have offers that are well below asking price. We've done the comps, and maybe we feel like this is the right offer to be making on this house. But something that's really important is they need to move fast. We already know you have a great pre-approval. We know you're underwritten, that the lender is fabulous. So I say we talk to the lender, see if he can do a quick closing, and maybe instead of asking for those closing costs, maybe, you know, you guys said that you had the money, but you wanted to ask for them anyway. So let's not ask for that. So now you just made your offer more appealing to the seller because now you're not asking for closing costs. You're going to offer a little bit more, but then you're going to give them what they really want, which is that 30-day closing.
Okay.
So sometimes it doesn't necessarily come down to the money. It's
Right.
kind of like the point of where I was getting. It comes down to some other things.
So as a seller's agent, do you have to be careful about like how much information you share when it comes to like that?
Yes, because you also don't want to show your hand, right? You don't want to show everything to the buyer. So what you would do is, and what I do is I have those conversations with my sellers. Be like, seller, I want to go over every situation that I can think of right now that's come up. What is your no BS bottom line? Because then I know not to cross it, right? And they're like, you know what, Nina? We listed it for 350. They're like, you know, 295. That is the absolute drop dead bottom line that we can do. Okay, no problem. So I just know that. So these are the that you have. And so now offers come in. If they're coming in really low, I might not have priced it correctly, right? Because now the market is telling me what the house is really worth, right? In its condition, location, and everything, right? So that's a conversation that as a seller I have to have with my client. But you ask them what they're okay discussing and what can I disclose. And that's a conversation I have during a listing appointment.
Okay.
You know, because then I'm going to be like, look, I know some of these things usually come up. Are you okay with me disclosing how many offers I have? Are you okay with me disclosing contingencies? Does someone have a home sale contingency? Do they need to, you know, maybe get out of a lease so they have to wait a certain amount of time? Is it okay that I tell them that you're moving to Florida and you have something under agreement already? So having that conversation up front helps you negotiate on their behalf when it's time. And then you use it at your professional discretion. So if you know that these offers are really tight, but you say time is important and they need to, you know, they're looking for higher offers, then it might help with the ones that you have go back and say, okay, this is what I found out, just like I just did with my buyer.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. Again, knowing your contracts is key, and I'm going to say that a lot. So if you've not looked at an offer and what it looks like and how to break it down and, you know, what dates are what and how it, you know, how it works, highly suggest going to Cappy's Corner. He has his forms and contracts classes twice a month. We do them. So highly recommend doing that. And it just helps you be a stronger negotiator. Let's see. So repairs. Repairs are like the evil sister when it comes to this. So we always fall into problems and like really tough, and it becomes kind of emotional between a buyer and a seller, where maybe the seller feels like they, you know, gave in a little bit when it came to the offer price, but now the buyer's like, I can't believe they lived in this house with this problem this whole time. So on both sides of the table, it's your job as the agent to diffuse those emotions and do your best to come at this without emotions for yourself and just get it taken care of, right? Controlling the anxiety around a transaction and keeping your emotions in check are really going to help you look like a strong negotiator. I know I've had times where, you know, I'm in the middle of something and, you know, my phone rings and I've picked up and it's the other agent and they're like, you know what, Nina, they said that they can't do that. They don't want to make any of those repairs. Well, now I'm upset because I'm like, are you serious? You can't just fix that. You got to tie it. I get it. So, and then immediately I'd go call my client. Well, right there's my first mistake because I'm already emotional about what just happened because I feel personally too that maybe the sellers are being a little bit stubborn because maybe this whole time they haven't been very cooperative. And if I'm calling my client emotional, that's going to transfer over through the call and it's going to increase their anxiety. So what you should do is, if that you're in that situation, is really take a step back, write down everything that has been said. You know, sellers don't want to change the fuse in the fuse box. Maybe they said, you know what, the sink's never dripped the whole time I've lived here, so I'm not going to have a plumber come. Meanwhile, you know, it was dripping while you were there. So writing all the facts down, getting your mind together, and then calling your client and giving them the facts and talking through what are the most important things for you. Okay, so out of the list of things we gave them, buyer, what is really something, the most important thing that we should really ask for? Because we can go back and maybe it's the leaking pipe in the basement and that's it, right? There was only a few things. And so I go back, I'm like, hi, listing agent, it's Nina. I know you said that the sellers weren't going to do anything, but do you think that they'd be at least okay with repairing that leaky pipe in the basement? You know, that's something that's really, really concerning for my clients. And do you think that's something that we can get them to work on? And maybe because I took that list from 3 items to only 1 item, it might smooth over the, you know, the table and it'll go okay. So those are other things that you can do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've also like seen before when those repairs and the seller doesn't want to fix them, because that happened with the house that I just moved into. They actually just quoted like how much it would cost to repair it, and they just knocked that off of the listing price. So they
Absolutely.
didn't have to repair it, but they, you know, they saved us some money to repair it ourselves. So.
Yep. And that's great that you bring that up, because that was another thing that we're going to get to is how can we come to terms now if they really are like, no, we are not doing anything. And so what other choices do we have? Well, we have the ability to have them take it off the offer price, right? So we know maybe it's going to cost, you know, $1,000 for all the repairs that we added up, and we're asking them for that. We already discovered that they're not going to fix it, or they can just give us a check at closing to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know those two may sound similar, but in a way it's not. So coming off $1,000 from the offer price isn't the same as them writing you a check, right, at closing and giving it to you, because that means that they're really paying for it. Right? So it could be that they just don't have the time to make the repairs themselves, and asking those questions to the other agent, like, why don't they want to make these repairs? And it could be, you know, it's an estate sale. They don't have the extra money, you know, so they're willing to do, you know, cut you guys a check at closing or take it off the offer price, something like that. So finding out all the other reasons why something's not coming to is why it's good to ask those questions. Does that all make sense?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right. So like we said, they can either say no, you can negotiate, or they can, you know, give you money at closing. And the biggest thing that sometimes it's hard to do, because again, things do get emotional. Clients will blame you. It's your fault, Molly, that we didn't get this. It's all your fault. You want to go, no, nope, it's not, you know, but, you know, you have to do your best to bite your tongue and say, I'm really sorry you feel that way. I'm doing the best that I can. What other things are important to you that would make you feel better? Or maybe this isn't the house for you. Maybe it has too many issues and maybe this isn't it. So sometimes it's hard, but above all, do your best to stay professional about it. All right.
Do problems like these come up really often, or
Oh,
are
yeah.
these rare cases?
Oh no, they come up. Yep. Some people are just a lot nicer about negotiating through it. If you have a really nice agent on the other end and you guys can work through it, and we talk about like that whole thing I said, it'd be like, all right, so you're the agent, Molly, why don't they want to make any repairs? Like, I understand what you're telling me, but what is the main drive for that? And you being able to tell me, well, you know what, their mom just passed, everybody's all upset, they don't have the extra money, it was sudden, so things like that help me as a buyer's agent to go back to them and say, look, they're not trying to be mean, and they're not trying to give you a house that is not in livable condition. There just happens to be extenuating circumstances in the family, so they're willing to take the money off the offer price. So is that okay? Is that something you guys can do? So right there, you took it from it being a personal issue to where it's like, oh, the family. So now that helped you de-escalate the situation too.
I see.
Yeah. But it does. It happens with every transaction. Do you need me? Okay, I'm on the, can you take him out? So all of that helps. On the same hand though, and this is where it gets tricky, you really don't want to reveal too awful much, right? You don't want to be like, well, it's been like they're getting divorced and it's so terrible and they're fighting all the time, and you don't want to get into that,
Right.
So just disclosing the things that are really pertinent to the situation, and to the reasons why. So a lot of things you really do have to kind of keep under wraps. But simple things, they have a home that they're going to, it's an estate sale, or, I mean, sometimes they're like, well, I can kind of tell walking through the house, the family's getting divorced. And you'd be like, oh, yeah, they are. And it's okay, but don't go deeper. Sometimes it's hard to not do that, but try not to do that. Let's see. So price and terms, we talked about that a little bit. We were talking a little bit about importance of closing dates, closing costs, conveyances. I know that there's a really good scenario in here that I want to play out. Let's see. Oops. Ignite. Sorry, I have to get it off my tablet.
It's all right.
Materials. Negotiating the deal. Okay. Do you have your participation guide open or like up where you can look?
Yep.
Does it show like a like a scenario?
Um, Yes. 3Ps approach. Is that what you're talking about? The property has 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So let's do that one. But that's towards the end, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, do you mind sending it again to the group chat? My internet dropped out in the middle, so I couldn't get the
Oh,
file
yeah.
from the beginning.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Meeting. Oh, I have to stop sharing for a second. File. Okay. Got it?
Yep,
Okay, good.
thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. So like Jake just said, we'll do the 3Ps first. So what are the 3Ps, Jake? What does it say?
Doesn't say. Let me see.
The 3Ps are prepare, present, and position.
Yes. That's
Yes. So what do you think it means by prepare?
What page is that?
Participation guide.
Page 7?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
prepare, having a conversation with your buyer or seller.
Mm-hmm. Knowing what their goals are. Know your client. Hopefully by this point, you've already shown them houses and you know them a little bit. So you understand what their motivations are, what their drive is, their big why. And being informed, that's also being informed about them, being informed about the house. Setting clear expectations is always a huge key thing. It starts in the very, very beginning. And as long as you're continuing to set those clear expectations, knowing what their wants and needs are and how you're going to go about addressing certain things, like how you go about addressing repair items, and stuff like that helps. There's one question that I think is kind of important to have, and this falls under like being prepared, is when you're thinking ahead and you're asking them these questions. So what would happen if the seller says no to your repairs? What would happen if the washer and dryer don't come convey with the house? So you know how to negotiate for them when that comes up, if it comes up, right? So it helps you be educated, and then it helps you negotiate where you don't have to go, okay, hold on, let me call them. Hi guys, what they can't do this. Now what? You want to have that already done. So have all that legwork done up front.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
Knowing too, like what their drop dead bottom line is too. And knowing that you can say, okay, you know what? My clients can't, that's over their price range. We can't do that. So then I know it's okay for me to bow out, because I've already had that conversation where they're like, absolutely not. And for this house, we're not going over 350,000, or we really can't go over 350,000. That's our like, whew, mark, you know? And having, and on the flip side too, is, you know, when you're negotiating, and this kind of goes on both sides of the transaction. So what you do for a buyer, you can also do on the selling side, you know? So instead of saying, well, what if it would be, okay, seller, what if they ask for the appliances? Are you okay with the appliances conveying with the home? So no, I promised my daughter that she can have the washer and dryer when we move to Florida. Okay, so I know that I have to disclose that. And even if somebody writes it in the offer, even though I put it in MLS that washer and dryer are excluded, but sometimes still people will ask for it in the offer, I know that I can go, hey, you know what, buyer agent, that they don't convey with the house at all. So I need you to take that out of the offer.
Okay.
So just knowing those things too. Let's see, prepare. And here's our open-ended questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's important about a 30-day closing? And then, do you have to sell your home by a specific date? Do you have any other offers? What's the bottom line price that you would consider? So all of these questions, if you're asking before you even get the offers, it helps you out. So you will always have your little notebook with you, right? And when you're with your client, so you know what you've talked about with them, and it keeps it fresh in your mind. And then it makes it a win-win, right? So if I know it on the selling side and the buyer's agent knows their buyer, we're able to better negotiate together because we know what each client needs. And then we know how to work our way to get to that win-win and be able to get this transaction to close,
Right.
right? Because ideally that's it, right? We have a house to sell and we have someone who wants to buy that house. And they put in an offer because they liked it. So how do we work together to make that common goal? And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's really the agent on the other side who's really difficult to talk to and to deal with. So those typically aren't very fun. And then there's my, what would happen if? Why is that important to you? So, why is it important that, I don't know, come up with something.
Why is it important for you to have the appliances, not get your own?
Yeah. Right. Why is it important that you have the carpets changed?
Right.
My kids have allergies. There's no way that we can live with those carpets.
Wait, so you
So-
ask these questions before you write the offer for that house?
You
Or-
would.
Okay.
Yes.
So for each house you ask those questions again? Or no?
Well, if it was my buyer, I would want to know that, hopefully I would know. They're like, Nina, you know what? Carpet's not cool. So I'd be like, okay, what part of the house can't be carpeted? Like what's most important? Because the houses that we've been seeing, a lot of them are carpeted. So what do we want to do? Are you going to ask the sellers to take out carpet, or are you going to be okay with ripping out the carpet and putting in hardwoods or linoleum or vinyl or whatever? Because now here, setting the expectation. Because buyer, the likelihood that we're going to get a seller to replace the carpet or take it out just for you to buy the home may not happen. So if that doesn't happen, what are you willing to do?
Okay.
Right. And that's why it's good to get to know them. And then
Right.
hopefully you're showing them houses that don't have the carpeting, right? But if they do, they're like, Nina, you know what? We already set aside. We know what size house we want. We have, about $7,000 that's not part of, the house, our down payment or something like that. Because we know that this is something that we have to have. So hopefully those conversations are being had. To do, and this is on page 9. Is it in there?
Prepared to. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So you want to read it and then we'll go through it? Because I don't have it in my guide.
You're going to.
Do you want me to read it out loud so you
Okay.
can hear it?
Yes, yes, please.
Oh, you're representing a single buyer. Your client is renting her present property. Like any first-time buyer, she is looking to you to guide her through the process. The asking price for the home she really loves is $175,000. The house appears to have evidence of a roof leak, is listed as is, and is correctly priced. Your client would like to keep her payments as low as possible since she still has a number of student loans to pay off. She wants to write an offer for $155,000. There has been quite a bit of activity on the listing.
Okay. So we know that there's a lot of activity. Isn't there something too on that side that says about the seller, what the seller knows?
No, not for this.
Not for this one?
No.
Okay,
For the position one, that shows what the listing agent has.
okay. All right, so what do we do in this situation?
You well,
We
you have to.
we can make mistakes here, so throw it all out.
Well, you'd have to have that conversation about the roof leak with your buyer and see what she wants to ask from the seller. And well,
Mhm.
you can also see what's important from the seller too when it comes to repairs.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think when it says it's as is, we already know that the seller's like, I don't want to do anything to this, right?
Right.
So we know that there's been a lot of activity.
Mm-hmm.
So now I call the listing agent and I know she's ready to make an offer. So I'll call them up and I'll say, hi, again, this is Nina from Keller Williams. My client really liked we'll say it's a condo, really liked the condo. We noticed that there was, a roof leak. So we're going to come in, I'm going to bring you an offer of 155,000. And then either you'll hear hesitation on the other end, or you'll hear, oh, you know what, that's okay. I'm expecting a couple offers, or I don't have any offers now. So you get a feel for what the other agent has to say. And then hopefully there aren't any offers, right? And then I would write up the offer as is. That one's a little tough one sometimes, because knowing that there's already something actively happening, like a roof leak, it's kind of important because there could be underlying issues, right? There could be mold someplace, and then those are things that you're going to want to have to take care of, so hence I could be telling that to the listing agent too. Say, look, I understand that they want to sell the property as is, but she's really concerned about the condition, and and this is why. But as the buyer's agent now, I know that she wants to keep her payments as low as possible. And if I hear from the seller that, you know what, they really need 175,000, I know I priced it right according to the market. Other condos that are this size, this square footage are selling for, 220. And I may know that because I did my homework. So I'll go, okay, well, I'll go back and I'll talk to my buyer. And then I have that conversation with her. So it could just very well be that my client is trying to spend as less as possible, but she really needs a place to be in. And maybe I can get her closer to 175,000 because I know, and from getting the information that I just got from the listing agent, that really it's worth 175,000 even in its condition, because fully, set, no problems, no issues, it could go for 220.
Right.
So that's why you got to do your double homework. Like how we said earlier in the week, doing that quick CMA for that property, going, okay, yes, it has these problems. So I would have done that as the buyer's agent, just going, all right, if let's say her name's Sally. Sally, look, we went over the comps this morning, and all day long it's worth 220 without any issues. And hopefully you can get them to come around and see how that is. And we already know that maybe her pre-approval is really strong at 175, so it'll be okay. She was just trying to play it on the easy side for herself.
Mhm.
So that's how you would get through that. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. These are some things that we went over already. Paying attention to verbal or nonverbal cues. After you give somebody like the offer amount, telling that, just saying that that's what it is and letting that sink in on the other side. Listening carefully, like we just said, what's really important to the seller or what's really important to a buyer, right? When we're negotiating on both sides. Staying calm, relaxed, focusing on your client's needs will give you the best chance to get it accepted, right? We were talking about those. All right, now we are in position. This is where we start really getting down to the nuts and bolts of what's happening and what really needs to happen, right? So this says, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're requesting a 30-day closing. What is important about that closing in 30 days? And then hopefully they defend that, well, you know what, Nina, I told you that I have to be in Florida on the 29th. I can't change that date. So I need to close on or before the 29th. Okay. Why is that important? Why can't we, we do have options to where you can sign the documents before you leave. If you can't come back, right? You can sign the documents before you leave with the attorney and we can still close on the 1st. So is there something else that, makes you want to have it done before you leave? So then, you've got a solution to that problem because maybe she can't afford to fly back for it, right? So you say, well, we can have the attorney get the paperwork ready so you can sign it before you leave. And then on the closing date, they'll send all the documents to you. And then she might not have known that. She might be like, oh, okay, well then no problem. I can close on the 1st. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And on the buy side, they want to close in 60 days. So what would be a reason why a buyer might want to close in 60 days?
They might have a contingency on selling their home or something, so they need to wait for the house to sell.
Yep, that's a good one. They could be renting and need to give 30 days,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it may be just fit in a really awkward time of the month where it has to be 60 days. It could be maybe they're having problems getting money out of a 401k, let's say. So we already know that it's going to take them 3 weeks to get it done. So you add another 3 weeks on top of a normal closing, it could be putting them at the 60-day mark, right? So explaining that to the listing agent helps with, the cause, right? Because we're both wanting to come to the same goal. And so knowing those few details helps both sides, right?
There's a situation where the buyer needed to be 60 days, but the seller needs to get it done before the 30th day. So how do we solve that problem?
Well, if there's no solving it, like let's say this just doesn't happen, then the deal is done.
I
Right?
see.
But we would know that right up front in presenting the offer. Hopefully the seller would be okay with it based upon the facts that we'd give. But sometimes they're like, no. And if it's in a multiple offer situation and other ones meet the checklist and the requirements that the seller needs, then our offer wouldn't even be considered.
Right.
If we're the only offer, as the listing agent, it would really be smart of me to talk to the seller and say, Mr. Seller, this is the first offer we've gotten on your home. It's been on the market for, I don't know, several weeks now, and this is the first offer. What can we do to make this happen? Because there is no guarantee that another offer is going to come after this. What I do know is that I have an offer right here that financially they're good because I spoke to their lender. They're putting down a good down payment. The dates match up and are good except for the closing date. They're going to need that 60 days because of whatever reason it is. And
Mhm.
hopefully I can get my seller to understand that that's okay. And, you know, getting document signed a different way, or, you know, or whatever the situation is, we can get it to work. Or
Mm.
maybe the buyers can be more flexible, and instead of 60 days, maybe we can do a 50-day closing. And maybe that extra 10 days makes people happy.
Mhm.
I don't know, but that's definitely, that just comes with communication, knowing your client, whichever they are, and knowing what their big purpose is.
I see.
That's the important part. Yep. Position to do's. What do we got on page 12 of your guide?
The property has 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. Is listed at 350 in a well-established neighborhood. The house requires new carpeting throughout the first floor and a new garage door opener. 3 offers have been made, but are all below the asking price. Then they have the buyer agent role and the listing agent role.
Okay. Do we want to play that out? Or do we just want to kind of walk through it?
Do you want me to read what it says for the buyer agent role and the listing agent role?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
So for the buyers, it says your buyers are making an offer at 340 for the house. They have been pre-approved. The buyers would like to close in the shortest time possible since they are moving from out of state and need a home for their family. Since they are leaving their appliances in their current home, the buyers would also like all the appliances to be included. Okay, and then on the listing side, it says your sellers have raised their family in the house you are selling and have many friends and family in the area. Since their children are now grown, they no longer need the amount of space in their current home provides and have purchased a home in Florida. They would like to give all the appliances to their daughter who has just gone through a divorce. They would not be moving until they have sold their current house, and although they would like to get to Florida as soon as possible, they are ready to stand the ground regarding the price.
Okay. So in that situation, what do we know about the sellers?
They are firm at 350. No
Right.
going below.
Right. They are firm at 350. And
And
no matter what, no appliances,
no appliances.
right?
That's right.
And it seems like they will sit there until they rot
Uh-huh.
because they will not come down on this price,
Right.
right? No matter what.
No matter what.
And on the buyer side, we know what?
She wants to do 340, and she wants to make it as quick as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants the appliances.
All right. So how would that conversation go between the buyer's agent and the listing agent?
Well, I feel like they should talk about the difference in the price first. Since it's $10,000. I wonder if since they're giving the appliances to their daughter, maybe they can factor that in to the offer price,
Mhm.
and possibly come to a compromise there. I know it's not going to be a whole 10,000, but at least it goes a little bit lower than the 350.
Yeah. Well, let's say A stove has to convey, okay? Because otherwise it doesn't make it livable. But the refrigerator and washer and dryer, we already know, let's see, a good washer, dryer, and a refrigerator, that could be $3,000 to $5,000,
Right.
right? Depending on one, where you get them, or the type of appliances you get. So as the listing agent, I would also be scratching my head going, wow, I have 3 offers and another offer on the way in, all below the asking price. I might have not priced the house right, right? And maybe this was a conversation you had with your clients, because we've had those clients where they're like, my house is worth $350,000 all day long. I live in a mansion. I raised my kids here. That's what my house is worth, and that's what I want for it. But yet we know, as the professional, even though we provided them with the CMA, with all of the information we could give them about what's selling, what's on the market now, we've given them all the statistics, but in their head, they're still like, no, I want it listed at 350. Well, now what's good is, as the listing agent, I can go back to my client and go, look, I know you really wanted to sell it at 50, but the market is telling us, the buyers are telling us what they're willing to pay for the house. They're all pre-approved. They're all ready to go. This is what we have. Are you willing to negotiate with one of these offers? And hopefully they say yes. And then you go through the offers and picking the ones that, the ones that are the best, that fit their needs, right? Ideally, yes, you want to raise that amount as close to the 350 as you can get, but maybe in this situation, it's more the market is telling you how much your house is worth. Because we could put a number on it all day, but if people don't bite, then it's not working. That means it's priced wrong. So this is kind of sort of priced right? Because people came and people are making offers, but maybe based on condition, or it's outdated, or whatever reason, they're saying that it's not worth 350. So on the selling side, that's a conversation you have. For the buy side, during that conversation I had with the listing agent, I go back to my buyer and, have to say, look, the appliances aren't included. They promised them to their daughter. So we have to take that out of there. 340, we did come in pretty low. But, doing the comps, maybe it was worth like 345 really. Are you okay with maybe doing 345? Because I think you'd have a better chance, a stronger offer. And then, asking for this just popped in my head. See, this is how negotiation works. Say that you'll pay 350, but you want 5,000 towards new appliances. Right? You want that credit. You want a $5,000 credit to purchase new appliances.
How does that work?
What would that look like? Would that be a check, or?
They would probably just give them a check at closing.
Okay.
Why is the seller to do that?
Say again?
Why would the seller be willing to do that? It's still money taken off their pocket.
It's just a negotiation thing. Because maybe, nobody was offering them 350, or they, there's a whole bunch of different ways to do it. But a seller can say no and be like, no, I don't care that you don't have a refrigerator or a washer and dryer. I don't care. And they can go, no, we accept 350, but no on the appliances. And then when it comes back to you on that counter offer, you have the option to accept, renegotiate, or walk away. This is the fun part. After this, I think it gets hard when you start getting into negotiating the home inspection, because then emotions start to rise, right? Because now buyers start thinking, oh my God, I'm spending $250,000 or I'm spending $500,000 on a home, right? And they're freaking out. And then they get the inspection report, which is like 100 pages long. But really, in that 100 pages, it's just recommendations, telling them what things to look out for. It can be all kinds of stuff, but if you're really anxious as a buyer, you can look through that and find 100 things to ask a seller for. But really, setting the expectation of a home inspection is, this is an opportunity to learn about your house and find things that we can't see. Mold, a leaky roof, maybe there's something wrong with the plumbing, like things like that. It's not because you don't like the color of the walls or the outlet covers. Is there an electrical issue? Is something not grounded? Things like that. So setting expectations way before it's time to get there is key.
Right.
Key. All right, I know we're going over, but we've been kind of talking a little bit about counter tactics, right? That's stuff that we've been kind of talking about already. Right, and a hot potato. So that's when they're asking for something, but you want to make sure that, nibbling. Nibbling is asking for a concession in return before agreeing to a further concession. That's what nibbling is. Hot potato is test the validity, find out what the problem really is, and has the party with the problem exhausted every possible solution. And good guy, bad guy. This happens all the time with couples. It's hard. And this is where it's sometimes, for me, because I have a very strong personality, I do have to bite my tongue a lot. And I've learned over the years of my life and over the few years that I've been a real estate agent, how important that is. So, but it's getting to, and it's also what you have to do too, is like find out and tell them the reasons why you fell in love with this house, the reasons why you wanted to make an offer. It's in the school district that you wanted, or it's the yard that you wanted. It has the pool. It has the updates that you needed. It has that fourth bedroom that we couldn't find. The kitchen, you can cook for, your whole extended family. Whatever the reasons that made them like that house, you have to remind them and then get them to de-escalate so you can move on. Because what's our end goal? To get to closing. Right. So that's those. I think we've been doing some pretty good on role playing, right? I know that there's a lot more. There's a lot more in the scripts book too. So the more that happens, the easier it is to let things just roll off. Like I just did it, oh, what about a concession, right? So it just happens. So the more you think about them, the more easier it gets as you get there in real life. And you don't want to practice on your clients. You want to practice on me. You want to practice on, another agent, and you want to make those fumbles now. And it'll just make it easier. Right. Did anybody have any ahas?
The entire thing was an aha.
The entire thing. This one is a really good one, and a lot can happen with it too, because there's so many different situations that can arise. And that's why no transaction is ever the same. Not a single one is ever the same. Even though you have your perfect formula, okay, I know when my offer's accepted. I've already got an attorney. I know a few home inspectors that we could call, you know, and you know that, okay, well, that's done, and you're making your little check boxes and everything's going according to your check boxes, but everything else is on fire. And you don't know how you got there because you're doing it the same way every time.
Mhm.
It really comes down to emotions and how you carry yourself and how confident you hold yourself. So even if you don't know the answer, it's okay to go, it's easy. It's easier said than done, but it's okay to say, you know what, I'm not sure about that. Can I get back to you?
Mm,
You know, or if you're not even sure how to negotiate something, right? Where you've told the listing agent like 155,000 for $175,000 list price, right? And, you know, that listing agent tells you, you know what, that's really low. I don't think they're going to, you know, I highly doubt that they're going to take it because I know my clients. And instead of trying to negotiate something there, if you're still not sure how to do it, you go, okay, thank you, listing agent. I'm going to go talk to my client and see what I can do. And it's okay to get off the phone and go, oh my gosh, how do I fix this? As long as you don't show it in that
Mhm.
interaction and you don't show it to your client just yet, then you're good. That's
Right.
where mistakes happen. Well, it's not even a mistake. That's where a speed bump comes up, because
Mhm.
I don't think it's ever a mistake. It's just another learning opportunity, because you don't know what you don't know yet.
Yep.
And you only know by working with someone who's done transactions and can help you through it.
Right.
And I can tell you the first few transactions, you're going to feel like a fish out of water for every single one of them. Even though you think that, oh, that one was hard, this one's going to be easy. Nope.
No.
Nope. And if they are easy, count your blessings and thank the real estate gods, because that one might not come around again for a while. But doing all the homework in the beginning, knowing your clients and setting expectations, biggest hurdles. And if you've gotten those taken care of and you have a good line of communication with your client, I think when it comes to negotiation, you'll have a solid foundation.
Right.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. That's my feelings. Any questions? It's already 5:15. I'm sorry for keeping you. I get a little winded, but I think role playing in this situation is kind of important.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you guys don't have anything for me, Molly, we're doing 2 a week. So we only have 1, 2, 3 more sessions left. So 2 next
Okay.
week on Monday and Thursday, and then on Monday again.
I see. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. All right,
Thank you.
guys. I'll see you next week. Oh, tomorrow,
Okay.
we're not working tomorrow. We're taking Juneteenth off.
Yep.
So the office is closed.
Okay.
Okay.